I was able to achieve a 7-figure net worth back in 2021. And since that time, I've continued to work to increase my net worth every single year. I was on my way to the barbershop this morning and I just started to think, what were some of the things that I could have or I should have been focusing on that would have allowed me to hit my initial goals much faster? So in today's video, I'm going to be going over 8 things that I should have been focusing on and prioritizing that would have allowed me to hit my initial goal of obtaining a 7-figure net worth much faster. The first thing that I should have focused on was staying out of debt, and more specifically in credit card debt. I made a video where I talked about how I got into credit card debt the moment I stepped foot on a college campus. I was a young kid and I had no idea how to manage credit. The only thing that I knew is that I had access to a credit card which allowed me to buy things that I didn't even need, and I didn't even have to pay for it whenever I took it out the door. Now, when I look back, it's easy to identify that that was one of the main reasons that delayed my ability to start building wealth. It took me a while to get through the process of paying off all of that credit card debt, and it absolutely delayed my ability to start building wealth. So when I think back and I think about the things that prevented me from being able to build wealth, getting into credit card debt is absolutely in the number 1 spot. Now, the second thing that prevented me from getting to my goals much faster was buying cars. If you watched any of my previous videos, then you know that I've talked about how I used to buy cars every 2 to 3 years. And I was always able to afford the cars. I had a decent job and I was always able to make the payment. So that really wasn't the issue. The issue was I was going out and I was spending $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 on cars. And what that did is that took away my ability to actually start investing, especially in my mid to late 20s. I was spending a lot of the money that I should have been using to invest in other opportunities. I was spending that money on buying cars. And when you think about it, cars is usually one of the number 1 factors that prevent most of us from being able to get ahead. I made a video about how cars are keeping us poor. If you want to check that out, make sure to click the link somewhere here in the video. Now, the third thing that I did that prevented me from hitting my goals much faster was I kept my money in a savings account. So in my 20s all the way up into my early 30s, I kept all of my disposable income in a savings account. And I didn't have a lot of financial acumen. I didn't have a lot of financial guidance. I really didn't know what to do with my money. I was scared to invest in the stock market because most people that you talk to will say, oh no, you shouldn't invest money in the stock market because it's like gambling with your money. So I left my money in a savings account. And at the time I was getting, I want to say 0.5%, because that's what traditionally you get in a savings account whenever we're not in these high interest rate and high inflation times. So I lost a lot of time and some opportunity to invest that money into things that would grow my income over time. Leaving my money in a savings account in my 20s up to my early 30s would rank right behind getting into credit card debt. So if you have money that is just sitting in a savings account that you don't intend to use in the next 1 to 2 years, I would absolutely recommend that you talk to a financial advisor so you can understand what your options are with your money, because you want to make sure that your money is deployed and working to make additional income for you as opposed to just sitting idle in the bank. The fourth thing was not investing enough in my 401k in my 20s. So if you go on to social media now, you've got a lot of people that slam 401ks. They think they're a scam, or you can deploy your money somewhere else to get a better return. Now, I'm a firm believer that you should absolutely be taking advantage of your company's 401k, especially if they're giving you the match. Now, after the match, you have other options that you could invest in, whether that's an IRA or a Roth 401k, but you should absolutely be taking advantage of investing in a 401k, especially when you're in your 20s. One of the best things about investing in a 401k is it allows you to invest pre-tax dollars, which ultimately reduces the amount of taxes that are taken out of your paycheck whenever you get paid. Now, if you ask me, a 401k is just an additional investment vehicle that you can utilize. So by the time that I'm ready to retire, I'll be able to pull from my 401k, my IRA, and a taxable brokerage account. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not waiting on the federal government to bail me out whenever I can't work anymore. I'm taking matters into my own hands, and I'm putting myself in control of my financial future. Now, the next thing that I wish I would have focused on earlier on in my wealth building process was investing in an IRA. So I just talked about how I should have invested more money into my 401k. And at the time, I invested up to my match for a long time. But in addition to investing in a 401k, I should have been investing in an IRA. And as of 2024, the maximum amount that you can contribute to your IRA is $7,000. So I should have been putting at least at a minimum the match in my 401k and then working to max out my IRA in my own account, because all of the money that goes into that account from the moment that I put it into the account to the time I start to withdraw it whenever I retire is done so tax-free. So if I were to start maxing out my IRA at the age of 25, for example, all the way up until now, which I'm 43, then that's almost 20 years of contributions into a retirement account that was able to grow with post-tax dollars over almost a 20-year period. Now, the next thing that I wish that I would have focused on early on in my career is opening up a brokerage account. So you're seeing the theme here, right? So 401k, IRA, now we're talking about a brokerage account. So these are all accounts that I could have and I should have been taking advantage of in my 20s and in my early 30s, which would have allowed me to continue to invest in multiple accounts that I then have access to at a later date. So over the past 8 to 10 years, I have been investing in a brokerage account. And the way that I utilize my brokerage account is I use my brokerage account as kind of a savings account. Now, most of my investments inside of my brokerage account, as well as my retirement accounts, are in index funds. However, I do have a small percentage of each one of my portfolios dedicated to investing in individual stocks. And one of the things that I think about when I think about opportunities missed from investing in a brokerage account, especially in my 20s, was investing in companies like Apple and Tesla whenever they were under $100 a share to invest in those companies. So by not investing in a brokerage account in my 20s and in my early 30s, I had a lot of opportunity that I let slip by because I was out of the market. Now, the seventh thing that I should have focused on earlier on in the process was deciding to go to a community college for 2 years prior to transferring to a 4-year institution. Whenever I graduated with my degree in business, I also had about a $50,000 student loan that I owed to Uncle Sam. And when I look back and I think about all of the money that I paid for my first 2 years, which was essentially electives, it actually makes my head hurt. Now, when anybody talks to me these days and they ask me about college, I always recommend going to community college for the first 1 to 2 years to knock out those electives at a much cheaper price. And then once you do that, then you can transfer to a 4-year institution. And whenever you graduate, if you have to take out loans, the amount that you owe will be much less than if you decide to go for the entire 4 years. And with the rising cost of college tuition every single year, my advice would be to take advantage of any opportunities that come your way that will allow you to decrease the amount of money that you either have to pay or you have to borrow via student loans. Now, the next thing that I should have focused on earlier on in the process that would have allowed me to hit my goals faster was buying a duplex that I had an opportunity to buy in my mid-20s. It would have allowed me to rent out one side and I could have lived in the other, and my mortgage would have essentially been paid for by the renter. At the time, I really wasn't thinking about the financial aspect of it. I was just thinking that I didn't want to be tied down to a particular area because at any point in time, I wanted to be able to have enough flexibility to move anywhere I wanted to. Now that I think about it, I should have actually taken that opportunity, because I could have still went through with any plans that I wanted to take. If I wanted to move, I could have rented out my apartment, or I could have just sold the place altogether. But being able to essentially eliminate my living expenses would have been a game changer for me, because I wasn't making a lot of money, and any additional money that I could have pocketed would have went a long way, especially to paying off those credit card bills that I talked about earlier in this video. So those are 8 things that I was thinking about on my way back from the barbershop today that I wish I would have approached a little bit differently, which would have allowed me to hit that 7-figure net worth much faster than I was able to do so. Now that you know, a lot of people are having issues with being able to get ahead financially because of debt, and more specifically a credit card debt, make sure you check out this next video where I talk about how I was able to get out of credit card debt by essentially paying 0% interest during the entire process.